Good afternoon or evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, and this is a public hearing. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional lands of Wasauba First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Item 3, statement of purpose. The public hearing is to consider amending the text of the municipality of the District of Yarmouth land use bylaw to zone PID number 901-77270 and 901-79276 from rural development to general industrial in keeping with the permitted zoning within the rural designation, provided the newly subdivision lot meets the lot requirements of the general industrial zone. That's the reason for this public hearing. Item 4, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to present? Seeing no one come forward, is there any written submissions? No? Is there any comments from councilors? Seeing none, I call this public hearing closed. Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, and this is another public hearing. I'll start off by acknowledging that we're meeting on the traditional lands of Wasauba First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Item 3, statement of purpose. This public hearing is to consider amending the text of the municipality of the District of Yarmouth land use bylaw to ensure that RV parks are developed in a way that aligns with the community standards and to minimize negative impacts. It is recommended that council amend the current land use bylaw to include a site plan approval criteria specifically for RV sites and RV parks in zones where the use is permitted. Y'all heard the purpose of the public hearing. Is there any presentators that wishes to make a presentation before council? Seeing none, is there any written submissions? No written submissions. Do councilors have any comments in regard to this? Councillor Phil Mooney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Maybe just to Derek, maybe he can outline the site approval criteria for the RV sites, just in what's permitted.
There you go, Derek, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I can quickly go through that. So this only kicks in when it meets the definition of an RV park, which in the LUB is defined as more than 2 RVs on one property. So, yeah, so people with 1 or 2, these regulations won't apply. And then after 2, it becomes an RV park subject to these regulations for site plan approval. So the matters that have to be addressed are the location and design, the lot area of an RV park, the lot area of an RV park shall be subject to the approval from Department of Environment for on-site services for the intended size and scope of the RV park. All permanent structures shall not exceed 25% of lot coverage. The proposed development shall not substantially alter the character or stability of the adjacent uses. If the proposed development does alter the character of adjacent uses, adequate screening will be provided by natural landforms or opaque fencing to screen outdoor storage and parked recreational vehicles so as not to be visible from the abutting residential, institutional, or recreational use. The proponent shall provide a stormwater management plan subject to the requirements of section 5.5. Those requirements are essentially can be summed up as requiring all rainwater runoff on site to be contained on site for the first 10 millimeters of rain at the pre and post development levels. So no additional water will run off that property into adjacent uses compared to how it was before this approval. Side and rear setbacks of at least 7.5 meters shall be provided. Location of all waste disposal bins is subject to approval through the site plan approval. All waste disposal bins will be completely enclosed and designed to prevent animals from accessing the contents. Waste disposal bins shall be screened from view of the street and adjacent dwellings. All exterior lighting shall be full cutoff and not emit above the horizontal. All exterior lighting shall not cause glare on adjacent properties, and all exterior lighting shall be provided dark sky approved. Adequate off-street parking shall be provided on the site to prevent congestion, nuisance, and inconvenience to adjacent uses. Accessory buildings and uses shall be located within the lot and, if necessary, screened from view of the street and adjacent buildings, including but not limited to parks, playgrounds, arcades, washroom facilities, equipment rental, storage, trails, outdoor screening, auditoriums, and any other use that is accessory to the everyday function of a recreational vehicle park. All driveway and travelways shall have a minimum lane width of 5.5 meters or 18 feet for a two-way surface. If the travelway is paved, this may be reduced to 2.5 meters, 8.2 feet to accommodate the size and height of recreational vehicles. All driveways and private road networks shall have a minimum lane width of 3.2 meters or 10.5 feet for a one-way travel surface to accommodate recreational vehicles. The proponent shall undertake mitigation of noise and visual impacts the use may have on natural environment to minimize any potential negative effects on the development of adjacent uses. The proponent shall provide on a site plan the following when a water course is located on the property: the property boundary and any shorelines, any water course, wetlands, or slopes above 20%, any sand dunes, existing riparian buffer, any areas to be maintained as natural vegetation, any existing or proposed landscaping or lawns, any areas to be cleared or partially cleared of vegetation, distance of any recreational vehicle, parking sites and buildings from the riparian buffer, location of the park's waste and storage building, which still have a minimum separation distance of 30 meters from the watercourse or wetland so as not to create or worsen pollution problems in the area. And finally, recreational parking sites. The proponent shall show the location of each recreational vehicle parking site. Each recreational vehicle parking site must have a minimum area of 76 square meters. A recreational vehicle parking site must only be used for one travel trailer or recreational vehicle. All recreational vehicle sites shall have a setback of a minimum of 3 meters from internal roads and meet the front yard setback requirement of the zone. So it sounds like a lot as a list like that, but really it's pretty standard stuff that we apply to most development. The difference here is that by default we do not have our existing controls do not apply to RVs. So in this case, after the limit of 2 is passed and it becomes an RV park, it gives us the normal controls we have over development on those RVs and the sites and the rest of the park. So I think that sums up the requirements. If you have any more questions, happy to answer.
Councilor Mooney, are you happy with that? Is there any more comments from council? Seeing none, I call this public hearing closed. Now, we're scheduled for 6:30 for the regular council. My only concern would be that it's advertised, correct? Oh, it is advertised for 6, so it'd be no problem starting now. Okay. All right, everyone, just a final reminder to turn off your ringers and dingers in your phone. So Mike, I guess as soon as you're ready, we're online. Okay, Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 23rd, and this is the regular council meeting. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're meeting on the traditional lands of Washoba First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Could we all rise for the singing of O Canada? O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much, everyone. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions? The agenda is circulated. If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Councillor Jim Baxter.
Motion to approve the agenda as circulated.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 5, if there's any declarations of conflict of interest, please notify me, and I'll make sure your name is recorded in the meeting minutes, and then could you please step away from the council seat. Item number 6, approval of the minutes. You all have that in your package. What is council's pleasure?
Accept the minutes as circulated, Mr. Chair.
Motion on the floor to accept the minutes as circulated. Pardon me?
No motion to approve the minutes.
Aha, we don't need no motion to approve them. It's a new change that I've been discussing with our planner. Item number 7, old business. There's no old business. Item number 8, new business. Recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. 8.1.1, request for financial assistance from the West Pubnico Golf Course. Councillor Phil Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that the municipality send a letter to the West Pubnico Golf Course congratulating them on their project. Indicate council is currently focused on strategic investments in the municipality. Their letter will be placed on file.
You made that a motion. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Muse. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.1.2, paving of subdivision J-class streets, 25-26 program. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
I'll move that the municipality of District of Yarmouth participate in the provincial cost-sharing program for paving subdivisions J-class streets for the fiscal year 25-26 for Park Drive with the municipal contribution of $112,500.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Phil Mooney. Discussion? Councillor Mooney.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And maybe we can get the CAO kind of to describe the difference in the J-class road and the reason that we got the funding this year compared to some other years?
There are a number of roads in Nova Scotia which are owned by the province, but the maintenance costs are cost shared between the province and the municipality in which those roads exist. In the municipality of Yarmouth, the first 151 meters of Park Drive falls into that category of public roads owned by the province. The province has a program available to municipalities whereby there's a $1 million pot of money from the province made available to do improvements to roads in that category of roads if the municipality in which they're located is willing to also match the dollars, so it's 50-50 contribution. The municipality makes a submission every year and provides the province with a number of roads that council would like to see improvements made on based on certain characteristics. For the last 2 years, the municipality was not able to secure any funding under the program because of the cost of construction has far outpaced the available pot of money to do projects. And so council met with representatives from the Provincial Department of Public Works and talked a little bit about the fact that the cost of construction really makes it difficult for any work to get done on the per meter cost. So because projects hadn't been awarded over the last couple of years, this project was awarded this year in order to facilitate the work done on Park Drive, which was the #1 priority road. So 151 meters being improved for $112,500 municipal contribution, and that's matched equally by the province.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. Does that answer your question, Councillor Mooney? Yeah, it's nice to see that we finally get some more funding. If I remember correctly, the last time that we received any J-Class road upgrades was in Lily Pond Road in the Lake Vaughan area, if I'm not mistaken. Or was that even longer than that?
We've had a couple since 2018. We've had Goodwin Drive and
Oh, yes, that's right.
Kinney Hill. Yep.
Yeah, but that pot of money from that the province supplies always seems to be underfunded for the amount of improvements that's needed on a lot of the roads. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, you have the floor.
Yeah, it's a fantastic project, and glad to get it. The funding is limited from the province, so it's nice to see that happen for Park Drive, and that is in a pretty bad state of repair, and it's heavily traveled, and of course we've talked a lot about Park Drive, but glad to have it happen. And Mr. Chair, after this, I'll make a motion, another motion to write a letter to our MLA thanking him for the efforts of the province and collaborating with us.
Okay, any more discussion on the current motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Deputy Warden?
Yes, I'll move that Municipality District of Yarmouth write a letter of thanks to our MLA, Nick Hilton, regarding the paving of subdivision J-Class Road, Park Drive, and for his and his government's collaboration on the project.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jim Baxter. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, item 8.1.3, draft low-income exemption policy L-068-09. You have a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole. Councillor Daniel Muse.
I make a motion that we increase the threshold of the household income amount increase to $50,000 on the low income exemption policy L-068-09.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Discussion. Councillor Jim Baxter.
Yeah, this was the one that I think we should mirror the provincial government on. I took a look at two of the programs the provincial government offers. One of them is the home warming program, and I think that's probably the most appropriate. It has a graduated level. For one person, the cutoff is $30,000. For 2 to 4, it's $56,000, and for 5 or more, it's $77,000. For me, I don't think that we should. I think we should take into consideration how many people are living in that home. I don't think a single retiree who's making $50,000 should be expected to have the same income available as a family of 2 making $50,000 with 4 teenagers. I think we should take that into consideration, and that's why I wanted to look at the provincial guidelines. Now, there are some other provincial guidelines on Nova Scotia housing, but they're not quite as appropriate because they're based on how many bedrooms are in the house. So they start at 32.5, go to 62.5 and 73. But I think that home warming one, in my opinion, is appropriate for what we want to do. And a second thing that I think we should probably consider is putting a ceiling on the program. And what I mean by that is I find it disheartening to see a house that's getting into a low-income program on a house that may be assessed at $900,000, in-ground swimming pool. I think that kind of thing we should also take into consideration, because if somebody has a $900,000 house, they probably shouldn't be looking at getting their taxes cut. They should probably be looking at whether they're living in something that's appropriate for them to be living in, rather than us taking a hit on half of the taxes on that property. So I think low income is low income, but I think we should also take into consideration the value of the house that we're given the tax rate cut on. I don't know if the cap should be $750,000. I think, in my opinion, if you own a house worth $750,000, you can probably pay the taxes, or you should probably be looking at something more appropriate. Those are my feelings.
Thank you. Councillor Daniel Muse.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm not really sure. This was never about cutting the taxes in half. You're applying for a $200 rebate, not cutting your taxes in half, Mr. Chair. So I'm not really sure where that information is worthy coming from Councillor, because we're only looking at $200. We're not talking about cutting taxes in half. And if you're only making $30,000, one person living in the home, that equates to $14.69 per hour on a 40-hour work week, which is not low income, that's poverty. So I agree that, and I think that was that's the next section about having for the higher up. I don't really think it's relative how much your house is worth. Like, if you've got an $800,000 home, you're probably making more money than that would allow you to get this program anyway. Like, you probably are making more than $30,000 if you own a $750,000 with the in-ground swimming pool. So, not really sure all that information is really worthy on this particular motion. So, anyway, thank you.
Councillor Phil Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And plus, the other thing is, like Councillor Muse has stated, the next motion is going to give staff an opportunity over the next several months to come back with some recommendations on the low-income policy. So we do have situations, and the reason that the cap came in place, and Trevor's been around the table long enough, and Lauren, and myself and John, that the cap came in place because of lakefront and waterfront properties in the Chester, Lunenburg areas that was being passed down from generation to generation. So somebody that had the property in their family for 200 years wanted to pass it to a son or a daughter. An American or a German came over here and built a $4 million property, and their relative on the other side came and built a $5 million property, and the person in the middle got hammered on taxes, but they've been in that community for 200 years. They've basically property taxed those people right out of existence. So that's the reason the cap came in. I think when we start going, it's going to be onerous on staff. We always talk about capacity around the table. Going to look at every individual house to see what they qualify for. So this is an example, and Councillor Muse used the 1469 number. So if two people live in a house, retired, they get the old age income, and they say they each get, and this is generous because I don't think this happens a lot, $1,000 a month Canada pension. you'll be able to qualify for the $200 exemption. There are other exemptions when it comes to heating, when it comes to the province, they have some low-income exemptions, but it would be $18,000, it would be $42,000 for two people. And the incomes around here are, we're a fisheries-based place around here, right? So I think the number is good. I think the 30,000 is way low. There's lots of opportunity for other forms of assistance on provincial and federal levels when it comes to tax rebates, tax incentives, home improvement things. But I think we can address some of those problems that Councillor Baxter has expressed in the next motion and give staff an opportunity to look at the options that we have. But I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
I guess the intention of the motion is largely to provide some relief, given the, inflation that we've had, and everything essentially over the last number of years. So it's a good way to do that. And again, Councillor Muse had indicated that we're talking about $200. So it's a modest amount of relief. We'd all like to be able to do more, but there are budgetary considerations certainly. So having said that, for those reasons, I'll be supporting the motion.
Councillor Jim Baxter.
Thank you, Warden. I guess this is a question for the CAO, because I may have had a misunderstanding then. Is the low-income exemption $200?
It's 50% of the taxes up to $200.
Okay, very good. I did misunderstand. I thought it was a 50% exemption regardless of...
Up to 200.
Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't here during the discussion of the committee of the whole in regards to this, and just for instance, 2024, the base income tax exemption was $30,564.50. This year, the motion that's on the floor is proposing that we raise the base to $50,000. I think this is well needed across the communities. Our council, the previous council, struggled at the last budget time, and we all remember that we had a one-time tax rebate, and that was to try to help residents out. This way here, it helps out quite a few more people than it did before. It's almost doubled, and I'm very happy to see that. As Councillor Phil Mooney had pointed out, the cost of living has certainly gone up, and this will open up the door to a lot more people that are struggling, and give them a chance to redeem some of their taxes and up. What is it you said, Madam CEO? Up to 50%.
50% up to
Up to
200.
Up to $200 on their home taxes.
And if I could, Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
go ahead, please.
there's an important distinction between this long-standing policy of council and the program that was ran last year. So this is a tax exemption. Applications come in prior to the tax bills being produced, and residents don't have to pay the tax and get a check back. They apply in advance of the tax billing process. If they qualify, it's an exemption off the top. So when they get their tax bill, that's the money, cash flow, that has to leave the household, and they don't have to worry about waiting to get it back.
Yeah, absolutely. This program here, it's said here, and also in the low income tax exemption policy, 2003 was the base year, and it was $15,000. So over the years, and in 2009, it made a little bit of a jump. It was changed by a motion of council, and again in 2018, it made another $4,000 jump. It was typically it's calculated by CPI, but this year's council's taking the extraordinary measure of and needed measure of making that jump by $20,000 roughly. So I think it's a great motion. If there's no more discussion on the motion on the floor, Councillor Phil Mooney.
And when we started in the business, myself and yourself and Trevor, Councillor Cunningham, is we were working with that basic number of about 16,000 when we started this, right? And you guys had the same program between the town and the municipality, so we started at that $16,000 level.
Yeah, I remember that well. It was just before I was elected, but I never forget it was in the news, and, well, at the time, the only news was CBC and CTV and Live at 5, and that was a big issue that popped up, like you mentioned, in Lunenburg, where those situations had happened. It was basically being taxed, longtime residents being taxed out of their homes by someone building multi-million-dollar properties on the ocean front. So I remember where it came from, and I remember why it came, and the legacy that the CAP has had to help a lot of regular Nova Scotians keep their homes. So, seeing no more discussion on the motion on the floor, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, there is one more motion on, that was talked about in the committee of the whole in regards to the draft low income tax exemption policy. Councillor Phil Mooney.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that staff provide council with exemption options for a household income bracket of over $50,000 that would operate and be administered in the low-income exemption policy. So if I could have a seconder, and maybe I could say a word on that?
Yeah, you certainly can. Seconded by Councillor Trevor Perry.
And maybe the CAO will chime in a little bit. This is an opportunity for staff to have a look at our exemption policy. So instead of rushing to another level, it gives staff an opportunity to look to see where we're at, see what programs are provided for different income brackets, and see if we can improve on, or see if we can provide another form of income exemption. So it's more of a, I think the CAO would be more of a study, a staff project, and it's probably going to take, I'm not going to say 1 or 2 months, probably take several months to have a look at this, because they're implementing a new system here, and have a look at the, probably some other municipalities across the province or across Atlantic Canada to see where they stand and see what they provide their citizens. But it gives us a good opportunity to maybe even learn something, even in the motion that was before this, to improve on that.
Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one thing that's happened in the last couple years is when the low-income exemption phenomenon took hold in municipal government back in the 2000s, it was pretty much just a straight program like Modi has now. In the last couple of years, as councils have been trying to find ways to provide some relief, that's where these new models of low-income exemption policies have come into play. So we would need to do a jurisdictional scan and take a look at the different ways some of the councils have approached it over the last couple of years in particular, and bring back some options for council to take a look at and see what you think makes sense for our community. So yeah, it will take us a few months to do this and get back with council probably in the early fall, which will be in lots of time for your next financial cycle.
I certainly agree with what's been put on the floor. My only concern, but Councillor Phil Mooney had piped up in regards to a timeline, because that body of work is not done easily. And to get it right, it would take a few months to get that done. And I was curious when I seen this come up on the regular council agenda, if there was a timeline that may have stressed staff to rush forward some information that isn't as good as it could be. Because if you're going to pass a motion or make a change, I think you really need all the information to give staff the time to do their homework in that regards. As what someone always tells me, I'd rather do it in excellence than rather doing it 3 times. So, is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.1.7, summer meeting dates. I do it every time.
No, I think you missed the private road name, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I did miss that too.
I mean, it's your meeting. I
Yeah, it is my meeting, however, I like to follow the agenda, but for some reason I like scratching on my paper and I crossed out stuff before. 8.1.5, road name request in South Ohio. Counselor Daniel Muse.
I'd like to make a motion that the municipality approve the private road name of Legacy Lane, South Ohio, for a subdivision on PID 901-50616.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Discussion? I'm glad to see I'm not the only one with their tongue tied and eyes crossed as they're going through stuff. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.1.6, request for decision, flushing and camera inspection of municipal sewer lines. Counselor Phil Mooney.
You want to do this one, Counselor? You do it. Okay. I move that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth accept the quotation from Eastern Trenchless as submitted under the RFQ for flushing, camera, and inspection of municipal wastewater systems in Arcadia, Port Maitland, and Hebron Dayton in the amount of $218,983, excluding non-refundable HST, over fiscal years 2025-26, 2027-28, and further that the CAO be authorized to execute appropriate contract accordingly.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Lauren Cushion. Discussion on that?
It may be the CAO, maybe just one thing why about the appropriate contract accordingly. It's like some might have to be paid over 2 fiscal years.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Mooney, for the question. So the request for quotations took the total municipal wastewater systems and divided it up into 3 sections and asked vendors to quote each section, 1 per year over 3 years, to manage the financial contribution, but also to allow our Public Works team time to receive the data and make work plans to deal with any condition assessments that might arise. So there'll be an investment. It's not an equal investment every year. In year 1, we're looking at I just don't have the subtotals there. It's not an equal investment each year, but over the course of the 3 years, it's the $218,983. Hebron Dayton obviously being the most expensive because it's the largest. Some may question why South Ohio's not included in this. And South Ohio's not included in this because it's a completely different type of wastewater management system. So in South Ohio, there are community field beds, which operate much like an individual residential septic system. But Arcadia, Port Maitland, and Hebron Dayton are traditional systems where the material leaves the home through a lateral into a distribution line and then off to a treatment facility.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. Counselor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd just like to stress how important it is to have this flushing and camera inspection done. I'm not sure if it's been done in the municipality before or not, but it's, things deteriorate, blockages happen, and if we can do an inspection to eliminate any major problems, it'll certainly be worth our while. So, I think it's a good project that we're undertaking, and it's well needed. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And a project like this could save us tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars due to inflows from cracked and broken pipes and stuff like that. So it's quite important that we keep up the maintenance and finding out if there is any problems, because we do get billed accordingly in regards to, I can't remember, it's liters or gallons or whatever it is, but it can add up to a lot of money real fast if we have a lot of rain and there's a lot of inflow into those systems. So, any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to the one that I seem to jump to for no reason. It must be summer. Spring is in the air, so can't wait for summer, so. Item 8.1.7, summer meeting dates. Counselor Phil Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Committee of the Whole and regular council meetings for July and August be combined and held on Wednesday, July the 16th, 2025, at 5 p.m. at Rotary Center, and Wednesday, August the 26th, 2025, at 5 p.m. at the Rotary Center.
Okay, motion.
August 20th? August 20th, 2025, at 5. I'm good. I'm reading it from a distance. But I was just looking at the Rotary Center will be ready by then.
Okay, there's a motion moved by Counselor Phil Mooney, seconded by Counselor Jim Baxter. And something that should be noted in here in the motion was that the meetings will be held at the Rotary Center. That's going to be due to this building here being renovated for accessibility. We all know that Municipality District of Yarmouth has been going through renovations first in the Rotary Center and obviously here over in the council meeting areas. Then the next place is here. So that's the reason why the meetings will not be held in this building. They'll be held up on the hill at the Rotary Center. So just make note of that. That's also noted in the motion on both summer meeting dates. So all of our meetings will be held up there. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.1.8, application for flying a flag. Councilor Jim Baxter.
I'd like to make a motion that the municipality approves the application from the Gaelic Council of Nova Scotia and fly the Gaelic community flag for May 2025.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor. Here we go again. Yeah, but I can't read that. Councilor Trevor Perry. That's why I have a cheat sheet here. Man, it's going to be one of those days. I can feel it. All right, there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Should be noted, Councilor Muse, that I've been trying to make sure that I call you by your proper name, so if I don't call you anything at all, then I'm not wrong. Item 8.1.9, UNESCO Biosphere. Councilor Phil Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the municipality invite Southwest Nova Biosphere and MLA Nick Hilton to a meeting to discuss the future of the Chabot Meadows Trail.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Jim Baxter. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.2, first reading of sewer bylaw S-084-25. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the Committee of the Whole, amendments to the sewer bylaw were presented for consideration by council, and it was agreed that it would come forward tonight for first reading. Some work was done in the definitions section to create more alignment between the land use planning documents and the sewer bylaw in terms of what certain words mean, like dwelling and dwelling unit, special care home. And then at the back of the bylaw, work was done to simplify the rate schedule so that owners of properties could better understand how the sewer rates were being charged. So we simplified the number of categories and clarified the definition section so that it was a more user-friendly document on the part of users. And we also made provision for the short-term rental industry.
You all have that in your package, and the outlined corrections or modifications. So what is council's pleasure? Want to approve first reading? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
I'll move that first reading, that Modi pass first reading of the sewer bylaw S-084-25.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Discussion on that? Seeing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, item 8.3, the second reading of the land use bylaw amendment for RV site plan approvals. Deputy Warden.
I'll move that council amend the current land use bylaw to include site plan approval criteria specifically for RV sites and RV parks and zones where the use is permitted and it's circulated.
Okay, a motion on. Yes, this is second reading, correct?
Second reading, yeah, that we approve, yeah.
Okay.
Approve second reading, yeah.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Phil Mooney. Any discussion on that? If we all remember, no more than an hour ago, we had our public hearings for that just before this council meeting, and there was no presenters or correspondence or anything for any dissenting opinions on this second reading of the land use bylaw amendment, so I'm in favor of moving forward. So any discussion on that? Deputy Warden, your mic is still on. No more discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. This is a question to you, Madam CEO. In that regard, since Municipality District of Yarmouth passed the second reading of the amendment, land use bylaw amendment, does this go, is there an opportunity if someone has a dissenting opinion to go before the Utility and Review Board? Derek? I guess. I hate to put you on the spot, but you are here, so.
Yeah. It's gonna, so an amendment package will first go to the province. The province will review that amendment package for consistency with the statements of provincial interest. So that would be the main test. And then they would also check that we've done everything, all the right steps. We've advertised it correctly. We've had our public hearing. We've had our, this is an LUB, yeah. So we did it. We had the public hearing that we just had. They would check that we did all that. So someone could appeal it, but they would appeal it, but they can't appeal it on the grounds that they don't like the idea. It would have to be on the grounds that we have somehow failed this process.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to item 8.4, second reading of the land use bylaw amendment for rezoning of the Wyman Road. Councillor Jim Baxter.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of second reading of the land use bylaw on Wyman Road, PID number 901777270, to general industrial use.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Trevor Perry. Discussion on that? Seeing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.5, request for decision, funding and procurement analyst position. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So almost 2 years ago, council was wrestling with its success rate and its ability to access external funding to leverage property tax dollars and complete more projects with fewer tax dollars and more external dollars. So they asked me about, whether or not it might be time for a staff position to take a look at that body of work. And I went away and gave it some thought, and then at the same time, we were notified that our Director of Finance was planning his retirement strategy. And so what I proposed to council was a one-year position, which would be 50% training as the new Director of Finance and 50% working in this grant proposal writing space, to try and get a handle on some data that would help inform, how much work it was, if there was opportunity to swing for more money, if there was opportunity to improve success rate when applications are submitted. So over the last year, Angelique LeBlanc, the Deputy Director of Finance, and Danny Jackson, our Asset Management Capital Projects Coordinator, have collaborated on a number of applications to try and secure external funding for council's initiatives. And so they collected quite a bit of data about how much time is required for applications, what types of information packages have to be put together, the skill sets that they needed in order to do that work, the work that is required if there is an award in terms of managing the award contract, the reporting that's required afterwards, as well as the collaboration that's required with the finance department in terms of tracking the revenue in and the expenses out. And so in the package this evening is the request for decision that was submitted to me by the team who did the work. And they are recommending the creation of a position called Funding and Procurement Analyst. And so what they've written is that whereas staff have identified a growing need to increase internal capacity to identify, apply for, and manage external funding opportunities to support infrastructure and strategic projects, and whereas a dedicated position will ensure improved procurement oversight and compliance with municipal policies and trade obligations, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of the District of Yarmouth approve the creation of a Funding and Procurement Analyst position as outlined in the briefing note, with implementation to proceed in alignment with the current organizational structure and budget. So what that means is that council will be receiving a draft operating budget at Committee of the Whole in May, and resources will be provided for in that budget for this position if it's council's wishes to move forward. And what it means is the position would just be organized within the organization under the CAO's purview according to the Municipal Government Act.
Make that a motion, Mr. Chair.
So you're moving that we move forward with this request for decision? Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jim Baxter. Discussion on the motion on the floor. Councillor Lauren Cushion.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This new personnel to be as the funding and procurement analyst, I think it's a very, very important position to have. In my opinion, this position will certainly pay for itself in the amount of funding that they will be able to secure at different levels of government, and which will certainly help the municipality of Yarmouth's objective of completing some of our projects that we have on the go, and what we can look forward to in this external funding. So I think it's a great move, and I'm glad to support this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jim Baxter.
Thank you, Warden. Just to reinforce what Councillor Cushing said, I think this is a great opportunity for us to leverage some provincial and some federal funds to help us with the projects, the good projects that the staff are doing here at the municipality.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.6, deadline amendment to low income tax exemption policy L-068-09. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm requesting that council, by way of a motion, extend the deadline for the low-income exemption this year from May 15th, which is in the policy, to May 30th. Given council has changed the income threshold, we want to make sure there's time for people to get their applications in. So we think a 2-week extension would just help us promote the change for a little bit longer and maybe give people a little bit more time to get applications in. So I'm not recommending a change to the policy, I'm just asking for an exception this year by way of motion.
Councillor Daniel Muse.
I'll make a motion that we extend the deadline from May 15th to May 30th for the low income exemption.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Jim Baxter. Chair's prerogative, I'm going to speak first. The first thing that come to my mind is when we, back on an earlier item, 8.1.3, we increased the base value from a touch over $30,000 to $50,000. And until I read through all the agenda, I was going to ask the question, since we made, should say, a big change to the low income tax exemption, are people going to know, and are people going to be able to find out, to be notified, because that deadline of May the 15th is coming a lot quicker than we think. So I'm certainly in support of this, and it'll give us a chance to advertise through our social media pages and word of mouth, and maybe it'll be caught on radio and news that people are eligible for this, because it is quite a large jump that we approved, and people may not be aware. So that was a concern that we've always had, is trying to get the word out, and it's something in our strategic plan that we're trying to improve on. So I'm certainly in support of the motion on the floor. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 9, correspondence for action, 9.1. Adapting to additional, let me get this straight, adapting the additional officer program. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the package this evening is a letter from the Minister of Justice to Warden Cunningham indicating that a program that has been stood up for quite some time in Nova Scotia, which provides a mechanism to get additional police resources in communities, is under review. So the letter indicates that there's no intention to reduce the $17 million pot of funding, but that the way the positions might be used is under review and could change. And so the municipality of Yarmouth, through its partnership with the District of Argyll, have an additional officer under the program, and that is our school liaison officer that works in the schools. And recently, the Joint Police Advisory Committee received a very compelling presentation from the parent of a student who was in distress, who had been benefiting from the services of the officer, and then the officer was seconded to other duties while there was a shortage of staff. And so what the parent's goal in presenting to the Joint Police Advisory Committee was to try and convey to the committee and to council the important work that is happening in our schools, because an RCMP officer is building relationships with young people and helping them not fall through cracks. So we recognize the incredible value that that position has brought to our community. And so what I'm recommending to council this evening, Mr. Chair, is 2 pieces of action. Number 1, that council write to the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities and ask the Public Safety Advisory Committee to request engagement with the Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice to understand more about the scope that's included in the review of the position program. And secondly, to provide the correspondence to the Joint Police Advisory Committee and request that Staff Sergeant Eady provide any additional information he might have with respect to any engagement he might have participated in the process.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Sure, I hadn't known about this particular fact, but where it's a school potentially a school-related issue, I'll declare conflict on this portion of the.
Okay, please note that Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham declared a conflict on this at 7:03, and he stepped away from the table. Counselor Phil Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the CAO. And Victoria will convey maybe the parents' concerns about the moving of the officer out of the schools and putting probably in the general RCMP rotation. So that'll be provided to the Federation of Nova Scotia Municipalities?
Yes, so the parent who made the presentation is actually on the Joint Police Advisory Committee now as a citizen rep, so we'll ask her for a testimonial to include in the correspondence to the NSFM.
Yeah, it'd be good to put it in context.
Yep. And I'm not suggesting that that position is going to go away. What I'm suggesting is, we've been informed that there's a review underway, but we don't know what's included in the review and what risks might be on the table.
So we heard from the CAO, there was two recommendations that she made to council. First one was to write a letter to the NSFM in that regards. And the second, I guess maybe we should deal with one at a time, because there was two recommendations. So what is council's wishes on the?
I'll make a motion that we send. Oh, Lauren, go ahead.
I was gonna just make comments on this program, so go ahead.
Councilor Mooney.
I'll make a motion that we send a letter to the Federation of Nova Scotia Municipalities in regards to the funding arrangement when it comes to the additional officer program, ADP program.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Jim Baxter. Discussion on that?
Yes.
Councilor Cushion?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm glad to see this come forward. Excuse me. I sat on the Alcohol Substance Abuse Committee, and we've been discussing how we could get an officer to attend the schools and to make that relationship happen with between the RCMP and the students. It all came about from the reports of students hiring taxis to have either alcohol or substance abuse or substance to be delivered to the school, and of course abusing it, sort of thing, right? So there was a big concern over that, and our committee done a lot of how can I say, advocating to the RCMP to look into this, and I'm glad to see that the municipality of Argyle and the municipality of the District of Yarmouth are looking at to review this. So, thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. There was also a second recommendation, and it was to provide correspondence to the Police Advisory Committee. Madam CEO, could you please repeat that? Can't write that fast.
Sure. So the correspondence from the minister indicates that leadership in the RCMP have been engaged. So I'm just suggesting that the correspondence be sent to the Police Advisory Committee and just have a conversation with Staff Sergeant Eady for any additional information he might have at that level.
Councilor Daniel Muse.
I'd like to make that a motion.
Okay, a motion on the floor to provide correspondence to Police Advisory to get input from Staff Sergeant Eady. Seconded by Councilor Jim Baxter. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Please note in the meeting minutes, Deputy Warden returned to the table after declaring this conflict. Item 9.1.2, Fire Service Governance Review. You all have that in your package, Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this was a late addition. This correspondence came in from the Minister of Municipal Affairs a joint letter from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and the Minister of the Department of Emergency Management after the close of business last Thursday, so we've had a long holiday weekend, so I apologize for the late addition to the agenda. The province has asked the Fire Service Association of Nova Scotia to undertake a governance review of fire service across Nova Scotia. And I have a copy of the request for proposal for the review. So the scope of work includes an analysis and building upon reports of past fire service reviews going back to 2001. Assess existing governance models to identify gaps and create forward-looking model for future governance operations of fire and associated services. Identify options for enhanced coordination among municipal, provincial, and volunteer fire services. Identify opportunities to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and resource utilization within the fire service. Evaluate and provide direction on fire service training in the province. Identify mental health needs to determine the supports and resources for the mental wellness of firefighters and their families. Assess other service delivery considerations, including, for example, communications, human resources, dispatch, interoperability, vehicles, facilities, and equipment. Provide models for funding sustainability and improvements in resource allocation to strengthen the financial resilience of fire and associated services. Place previous reports and other review findings in the context of climate change. Recommend standards and enhance interagency coordination to ensure communities are served effectively and equitably, and establish a clear implementation roadmap. In the letter from the ministers, there was a recommendation and encouragement that municipalities support in that review process, but there was no instruction given on how to engage. So my recommendation is that council write to the Fire Service Association of Nova Scotia and put its hand up to make itself available to participate in the review.
What is council's wishes? I think it's a great idea that we put our hand up and make sure that we're heard and on behalf of the people, residents of the municipality district of Yarmouth. So is someone willing to make that a motion? Deputy Warden?
So I'll move that Modi write the Nova Scotia Fire Service indicating our willingness to participate in this process and at their earliest convenience.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jim Baxter. I want to speak to that. Here in the letter, it says your input is critical to this process. As the CEO listed off some of the things that they're going over and stuff, I am quite concerned on the possible costs, on how this could affect the residents of the municipality district of Yarmouth. As we all know that we're quite stressed. Number one, we have to keep a balanced budget as per the Municipal Government Act. And number two, we're quite stressed from what a lot of people have said over the years in municipal government is we seem to get downloaded more and more and more. And I'm concerned on what the financial implications could have for the municipalities in this regard. I fully support the province for moving forward this endeavor in the governance review. But at the end of the day, if there's changes, one of my main concerns is how much it's going to cost. Is there going to be a duplication of services? Obviously, that's what they're looking for, and how we can more effectively manage the response times and no duplication of services. But it's very important that we participate in this, and they're asking for the feedback, and sometimes I always say be careful what you wish for, because sometimes they may not hear what they want to hear. And I encourage everybody and the council to respond to that. Councillor Phil Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And like you said, that's a two-way street, so we want to be involved in the process to see what they come up with. But when you look in the province of Nova Scotia, and you're a fireman yourself and a first responder, I'm going to say the word disparity might not be the right word, but what infrastructure they have in the city of Halifax and Dartmouth, for fire equipment, and what we have provide our citizens for the rest of the province, and I think we do a great job with what we have. I'm concerned as you as both the additional costs, but it's better than being at the table to express our concerns. And if they're going to come down with recommendations at the same time, they better come down with some reasonable financial assistance if they're going to make us do this, and not for 1 or 2 or 3 years and then we'll go on our own, but a reliable funding model and like sign it for 10 or 20 years. Like they can't just come single-handedly put a system in that we can't afford.
Absolutely. Councillor Jim Baxter.
I think it's great that this letter came out. It's a very important thing. I've attended 2 ratepayers meetings in the last couple weeks, one at Port Maitland Fire Department and one at Lake George Fire Department, and the firemen and the fire chiefs are asking for a review. They're looking for information on how they can improve things. So I think this is a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I'm not saying that the review, but the duplication of services, we don't want to see, but also the protection of the residents in the municipality, because we all don't live within a 4 or 5 mile radius of the center of the county. Mind you, we can't all have like, it'd be nice to have all the departments fully trained for all aspects of firefighting, and whether that includes hazmat or ice rescue or just local wildfires and stuff like that. But there's a lot to it, and sometimes there's duplication of services, and other times there's gaps in services. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see what becomes of this, and I like I said earlier, make sure that you have your input and say on this, because it could have a lot of financial impacts for not only the municipality district of Yarmouth, but all municipalities across Nova Scotia. Deputy Warden.
Yeah, Councillor Baxter made a good point, that may be an opportunity for us to learn some things. And again, the world's changing pretty rapidly in terms of getting insurance. We live in a rural municipality, so I'm obviously not. I'd like to become more aware, and certainly the staff and so forth, and all council needs to become more aware of sort of what are the issues there, and this may be an opportunity to close some of those gaps and you know, reduce some of those duplications where they exist across the province. But in any event, the insurance piece is probably going to be a big factor, you know, moving forward, because you know, we'd like to be able to develop a lot of our municipality, and fire protection is going to be an important part of being able, I would guess, moving forward, to be able to develop that sort of in a cost-effective way.
Councillor Mooney.
And also, I like Councillor Baxter, over the last month, I've attended 2 ratepayers meeting, one at Valley District and the other one at Carleton. And one of the concerns when you're talking about gaps is the Valley and District are concerned about the road. A couple of the roads are horrendous, especially going across Haley Drive. So if there's a fire on the other side of Haley Drive, which is their district, those guys now, or this spring, they'd have to go to the Saunders Road and come down. Mm-hmm. So you're adding 10 or 15 or 17 or 18 minutes on a fire call. That'll go in with insurance rates, and the insurance rates are going up for fire departments. I think Valley Districts, they're up over $18,000 this year that they pay for insurance on their equipment. So there's all kinds of opportunity. Like a couple of years ago, we had the wildfires. Basically, if we would have had a fire on that back Old Tin Mine Road, we were cut off from the rest of Nova Scotia, right? They got to improve that road. They got to improve access to here. Like, they have an onus or responsibility to the taxpayers of all of Nova Scotia to do something. It's not only good enough to do a review, but then to put the cost or saddle the responsibility and the money on the taxpayers again, without responding with some in-kind or other things to do. There's going to be lots of comments, and you'll hear it right across the province, about capability or accessibility for fire departments and getting to fires. So some of those, we're not paving, we're not paving any more secondary dirt roads. I think they're going to have to get off that and do something about it.
Don't disagree. We could discuss this. We can discuss this all night. There is a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 9.2, we have two pieces of correspondence for information, the West Nova Regional Business Park Phase 2 and the portrait of His Majesty King Charles III. If there's no comments on any of that, I'd entertain a motion to, that we've accepted and filed correspondence. Moved by Councillor Phil Mooney. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10, reports. 10.1, CAO's report. You have that in your package, Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I ordinarily don't speak to the report unless there's a question, but I did want to highlight one thing in particular this evening for the public. In the report, I have highlighted that we are currently accepting applications for the Municipal Volunteer of the Year Award. Applications do close this Friday, April 25th. So if you know of a great volunteer who's worthy of some recognition, let us know. We'll help you get an application package in if you need a little bit of help. And the municipality's winner will go forward as a nominated person for a Provincial Volunteer of the Year Award. So we want to encourage volunteerism, and certainly a little bit of recognition can be an encouragement for people, so.
Any comments or questions? I'll make one comment. I was going to do a verbal report, and one of the first things I was going to talk about was the volunteer awards, but that's quite all right. Like they say, you never give any sort of politician a chance to talk because they can talk about nothing for hours. Deputy Warden.
Yeah, just our business park, West Nova Business Park, is one of the pieces you reported out on in your CAO report. In any event, that's recently been rewarded. Any idea of when that groundbreaking might happen?
We're just working now with Aberdeen to get the contract signed and nail down kind of the start date and the kickoff date. It'll be soon. How soon, I don't know, but they're ready to go.
Great project. Thank you, Madam CEO.
Any other comments? Councillor, Lauren Cushion.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Again, I'll refer to the CAO's report in the West Nova Industrial Park that Councillor Cunningham had mentioned. Again, this is another worthwhile project for us to expand our commercial tax base by encouraging new businesses to move in there to set up operations. So it's a well worth project that we're moving forward with, and so I just like to thank council for their support to have this work done. Thank you.
All right, any more comments? Councillor
I
Muse.
just want to make a motion that we accept the CAO's report as presented.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor, here we go again, Trevor Perry. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.2, Warden's report. I have no written report. As you all know, I've been away for a couple weeks. And one thing that I wanted to say is, even though I was away, I don't seem to be very rested because, as we all know, I take a lot of responsibility, but I want to thank each and every one of the councillors and the deputy warden for running our committee the whole meeting. It's great to see that we're all pulling together as a team. And that's something that's very important when one person's either gone away for one reason or another, or having operations or something like that. I know that each and every one of us, we can rely on filling the gaps that we've had. And it's also should be noted that as two of my councilors had noted that they've been attending annual general meetings of fire departments, being out and about is very important. Another thing that I've done since I've been back only a week and a half, I attended the Tuscan River Environmental Protection Association's annual general meeting. There was 3 speakers there. There was Mayor Pam Mood, who's the president of the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, myself, and Councillor Darrell LeBlanc from the Municipality District of Argyle. We each had 10 minutes to speak on different topics. One of the hot topics that seemed to come up during that meeting was the coastline protection in the province and the people being upset. And there was also outlined by Mayor Pam Mood that there's been a lot of discussions with the province that the municipalities don't have the funds to number one, enforce all these rules and stuff in the mixed match. But there was also an announcement that the province is putting their money where their mouth is to try to help municipalities in their MPSs and LUBs to make them compatible with what the province wants. So I wanted to point that out. Something that I want to note, in my travels out throughout the county in the past week and a half, I've noticed a lot of people volunteering their time to make our county much more beautiful and collecting garbage out of ditches. These are people that it's happening on the 340, it's happening out in the Chabot area, and I seen someone out on the Richmond Road collecting garbage the other day. And on behalf of all council and staff, thank you very much for taking pride in our community and picking up the litter that unfortunately some people have been throwing from their vehicles. There's a lot of, as we know, fast food containers and bags, fast food cups, coffee cups. I don't want to see that, and I encourage everyone to make sure that make sure you don't throw it out the window of your car. Bring it home and dispose of it properly. We pay a lot of money for garbage disposal, and that's what it's for. It's not our ditches. And like I said again, thank you very much to anyone and everyone who's taken their time to go out and clean the ditches on their own time. It's very important, and it's great to see. As we all know, council's going through our budget deliberation process. It's obviously a lot of work. Things are coming together. We're going to be meeting shortly on our grants and stuff like that. So that's going to be coming next month, as outlined in the CAO's report. And one last thing. As we all know, there's a general election coming up on April the 28th. I'm very encouraged to see that there's been 7.2 million advance voters in the advance polls. I had voted in an advance poll in South Ohio. No, sorry, not South Ohio. Pleasant Valley. And it was great. There was actually a lineup there. I want to make sure that everyone knows that whoever gets elected as our next Prime Minister of Canada, the Municipality District of Yarmouth Council will be working with who's ever elected. And it's very important that we try to make great relationships with no matter who wins. And also on that note, I do believe staff is working on a motion that was passed by council back in November with our MLA. Staff is currently working to have a meeting with him in the very near future, and I just got an update no more than a few minutes ago about that, because there was a motion on the books, and staff is working very diligently with the MLA to make sure that that happens. There's a couple other things, volunteer awards, which the Madam CEO had talked about. I talked about the TREPA annual general meeting, but finally, I'd like to say that I'm very happy to see the progress on the new aquatic center happening out on Stars Road. It's very nice to see, and we're getting regular reports from the chair, Warden Nicole Albright from the Municipality District of Argyle. You think there's a lot of changes there now. In the next month or so, structural steel is going to start going up, so things are going to be happening fast out there, and I'm very thankful for the updates and things that's been happening from the chair of that. And also Councillor Daniel Muse is also our chair of the Mariner Center board. I know he's taking on a large task where they're currently looking for a new CEO or CAO? CEO. He's taken on a lot of responsibilities, and on behalf of our council, Daniel, thank you very much for doing that. It's quite a big project to jump into, and especially being not a first-term counselor, but you've been out of the game for a little while, and taking on that task, being new and being willing to learn and spending the time being out there and trying to make sure that that operation is run as smoothly as possible until we get a new person heading there. So thank you very much for that. So that's my report. I could go on a little bit more, but I've only been around here for a week and a half, so I guess that's it. Warden,
No, Counselor.
I'm telling you, it's been one of those days. I still got vacation fog in my brain. Councillor Lauren Cushion.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and I really appreciate you recognize the volunteers in your area and surrounding areas of picking up the litter out of the ditches and whatnot and keeping our municipality neat and tidy. I just wanted to let you know, I traveled down to 304 all the way to Cape Fichu and back again, the lighthouse, and there they are, picking up garbage down along there too, right? So it's everywhere. People are volunteering everywhere to pick up garbage, which is great. Now, you're talking about the new project out there. I said on the Mariner Center Expansion Board, we're having a meeting Friday night, so I'll be able to update our council on our next meeting on what's going on, so.
All right, thank you very much. I only pointed out those areas, I did say Chabot because my mom lives down there, and Carlton, and just the areas that I've traveled, and it hasn't been a night with the weather been decent that people haven't been out there picking up. And I do know that there's a lot of work going out for sure. I do know there's a lot of work going out in Port Maitland in all areas. But I just wanted to point that out, that your good deeds are not going unnoticed. I just wanted to point that out. So we'll move on to legal entities reports. We have some written reports there. Is there any verbal reports? Councillor Daniel Muse.
A report on the Mariner Center Management Authority. So as you spoke about earlier, we're looking for a new CEO. We hired a consulting firm out of the Valley, Peak Experiences, and last Tuesday night they posted the job description. So that's on in Beacon, and indeed it's on a few sites now. So in talking to Craig Kennedy yesterday, he mentioned he already had a handful of applications, which is a good thing. He said in week 3 to 5, so this is that's usually when you get a lot more. So it's looking promising that we have several candidates apply for this new position as CEO. We had a meeting just last week. We've consulted with Colliers Consulting for the replacement of the ice pad on number 1. So they're in the consulting firm, they're looking at that right now. Junior A Mariners contract was signed, I think 2 weeks ago for another 3 years. So we're very excited about that. They're a big tenant for the Mariner Center. A few things have been happening at the building itself. Upstairs in the lobby, they had tiles replaced. As soon as you walk in, the ceiling's been replaced with new gyprock and painted, so that's a great improvement. 2 events coming up this weekend. So April 25th, at the Mariner Center, they're going to have what's called Paint the Ice. So the ice will be provided. Of course, the ice will be provided. The paint will be provided, and you can go on the ice, and it's similar to what, if anybody's aware of what Claire has done the last several years. You can go and you can take some paint and paint something in memory of somebody, or you can paint a picture of moon, whatever you want to do. You can put it on the ice, and at the end of the night, the staff is going to go and they're going to seal the paint. So the next day there will be a family skate from 12 to 2, free of charge, to go and be able to skate around and look at what people have done, what they've painted in memory of whatever, or cancer survivor, whatever you want to paint, right? Like I say, even a picture of moon, that'd be a good laugh. But we've seen a few of them. So that's a very important couple of things happening there this particular weekend that I'd like to, come on in and enjoy. join in, paint, and then the next day come and skate over it. And then when it's done at 2 o'clock, they pull the plug, so to speak, on arena number 1. They melt the ice, because I believe the living show, the spring living show is the next weekend. So that's my report on the Manor Center Management Authority.
Thank you very much, Counselor. I did hear about that Paint the Ice program that's going to be happening on the radio this morning. I thought that was a neat idea.
Yeah.
Okay, Deputy Warden.
Yes, I attended a couple of Yarmouth International Airport Corporation meetings. The latest one was on April 9th, and we discussed and moved forward to council's the 25-26 operating budget. Lots of good things going on at the airport. It's a tremendous asset that we own among the three councils in the area. You know, there's some money being invested there, but it provides a lot of service and a lot of potential for development and commercialization in the Tri-County and I guess Western Nova Scotia. So that's my report. And again, each piece of the budget will be coming to, or the budget will be coming to the three respective councils for approval and funding shortly.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Councilor?
One addition, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, hit your mic again, Counselor. There you go.
One addition, Mr. Chair, I'd like to actually thank you as the chair of the nominating committee for the Manor Center. We were down a couple of citizen reps, and after a little bit of time, you guys last week appointed 2 new citizen reps, one being Brandon Gowdy and the other one being Dwayne Renard. So there are new citizen reps, thank you very much, and they were appointed on Monday, and short turnaround, they attended their first meeting, a 2.5-hour meeting on Tuesday. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
It was my pleasure, and it's also great to see all the input from, I think it was 11 names that we had to go through, all very good candidates, and I was glad to see. Excuse me. All right, no more reports. Item 10.4, advisory committees. Councillor Muse.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Joint Police Advisory Committee, we have not had a meeting since our last one, but I think 14 days ago, I got an email from Staff Sergeant Mike Eady asking, or just letting the committee know that there was going to be a tour in the Dartmouth headquarters. If anybody from the joint committee would be interested in going to see exactly what is done at the headquarters in Dartmouth. So that's just an update from the police advisory. So hopefully somebody will be able to attend that. I hear it's quite interesting.
Councillor, was there a date on that?
Chair, I think there was 3 different opportunities, and one of them, I think, maybe Jenny, maybe you might be able to help me out with that. One of them was canceled, and another one was moved to June the 11th, and one was, I think, March 25th next week. There was 3 different dates.
Yeah, I actually had a tour of that facility, and it was kind of neat because what they showed us was an upfront and personal view, and one of the neat things they had there was, and this was 6 years ago, they had cell phones there, and they were all smashed. You didn't think they work, but they were sitting there downloading the information out of smashed phones, and how they do that, and some of the concerns that they had with, at the time, iPhones that they couldn't crack because of the manufacturer, but they were working on that, and I think since then, they have access to them. So it was kind of neat. It was a real neat experience. Also had a dog trainer there, showed us what their dog could do. Put it this way, I wouldn't want to stand in front of it. It'd mow you over. And how high it could go, almost like it could climb the wall and start walking around on some of the ventilation here. It was pretty neat. It was something to see if you haven't gone and seen. Something to see if you can get in there, take advantage of it. All right, is there any more reports on advisory? Item 10.5, ad hoc, no meeting there. Public comments? no public comments. Item 12, there's no in-camera agenda items, so therefore there will be no in-camera recommendations. Since that's the agenda, I move that this agenda is closed.